Reluctant Preppers provides educational awareness and commentary only. Opinions expressed do not constitute personalized financial advice. Viewers are encouraged to do their own research and seek qualified personal financial consultation before making investment decisions. Does your family ever get exasperated with you for stockpiling such things as paper towels, bottled water, or toilet tissue? Well, they certainly can't object to you stockpiling money. Silver, the only money recognized by the U.S. Constitution, and your first 10-ounce bar of pure silver can be had at spot price with no premium by going to sdbullion.com/rp. And when you buy it that way, you'll be supporting Reluctant Preppers as well by going to sdbullion.com/rp. Thanks! Hey, Reluctant Preppers. If you haven't heard, we've already started our monthly 1-ounce U.S. Silver Eagle thank you gift to one active Patreon subscriber each month, signed by your host, Dunnigan Kaiser. And you don't want to miss out on that.
Please help us grow by subscribing today at patreon.com/reluctantpreppers.
As a responsible person with growing concerns for your privacy and personal liberty, you want to know where we're headed and what you can do about it. We ask the experts what you need to do to take prudent and responsible action to safeguard your family's wealth and well-being, and what basic first steps will help you to be aware and prepared. ReluctantPreppers.com.
Welcome back, Reluctant Preppers. Today is Tuesday, October 9th, 2018. This returning guest almost needs no introduction. Most of you know him. He's David Morgan, the silver guru and founder of themorganreport.com. David, thank you for joining us again here on Reluctant Preppers.
Duncan, thanks for having me back. I'm ready for the rapid fire questions, the final round.
I hope it's not the final round. I really hope that. But we do have a lot of questions from our viewers, as always. When they catch wind that we're going to have you on, they barrage us with questions, so we'll only have to pick a sampling of these. But one I'm going to steal from is the question of what was your red pill moment when you finally realized that things were not as you had told they were?
That's a real tough one. I've said this on many interviews. I mean, I was 11 years old when the coinage changed from 9% silver to the Cupro nickel. So I think I was like not the red pill moment. I mean, I'm only 11-year-old. But I'd say by the time I was in 8th grade and we started studying the Constitution, that I was getting red pilled by then because I realized that, we're not obeying it, especially on the monetary side, because I kind of had this obsession about money and finance and that type of thing from a very early age. Don't ask where it came from. It just was there. And then by the time I guess I was about halfway through high school, I really had decided that there was no real political party. I mean, it was this left-right paradigm. And of course, that was extremely radical thinking in those days because we still have this left-right paradigm. And a lot of people believe that there's differences, and there are some differences. Obviously, there are. But, it's two wings connected to the same bird. And that's been my philosophy about the political system for a long time. So I don't know. I couldn't really pinpoint it. I'd say by the time I was an 8th grader, I was very suspect of authority. Very suspect.
We have another question regarding the form of silver that people might consider holding. AU Prospector asks, what forms of physical silver would David advise for both investing and bartering after a reset or other SHTF event?
I would say probably the easiest and best for barter would be, U.S. coinage, junk bags, quarters, dimes, half dollars. Those are probably your best, but any silver is silver. I mean, you could barter with a 10-ounce silver bar or a 1-ounce round or a half-ounce round or that type of thing. One thing I will bring to everyone's attention, which was new to me, not anymore, but several years ago, was one of these people from Argentina that lived through the financial crisis of the year 2000, 18 years ago, and talked about jewelry actually worked. Now, again, I want to caution people, don't go buy silver jewelry to barter with it. You want to buy it at melt, but that's what they were bartering. It was bartering, silver by weight. And believe it or not, I said, well, wait a minute, David, come on, how does that happen? And believe it or not, when things get tough like that, you'll find people with scales that will know if it's, sterling or 999 fine. They'll be able to tell, and they'll be able to weigh it and say it's worth this much. So that stuff does take place. Would that be advantageous in the United States? Don't know. Kind of doubt it. Think you're probably best off with, junk silver.
in answering the question that way, and it's something that I've thought about a lot too, do you think there's a value in the fact that junk silver, having been previously visible as a currency, is something that people tend to trust when they see it? Like they don't think, oh, I got to somehow test this to make sure it's real. They just recognize it as real by looking at it.
Absolutely, I think that's one of the main benefits. It's already, divisible. It's recognizable. I mean, you could take a fifth grader and show them a silver quarter, and they could see and feel the difference between a cupro-nickel slug, and it wouldn't take much of an educational process. So I think there's silvers, and the other one is the units. I mean, a dime is not very much silver, but in hard times, you might be surprised what it would yield for you as far as purchasing power.
On the flip side of that size question, the same viewer asks, are 100-ounce bars too large for investment purposes?
No, not for investment purposes. I mean, what I've taught from the beginning is you're starting out, start off with coins, rounds or wafers. Just start off with the 1 ounce or half ounce or, divisions of 1 ounce. And then once you have whatever substantial amount means to you, if you're really an investor, certainly you can go to 100-ounce bars. I mean, you're going to pay a lower premium, but, what I don't want to see happen is, for a quick example, someone that has the ability to buy 200 ounces of silver buys 2 100-ounce bars. Now you're in a real mess, because if things happen, you're going to have to swap that bar out for, 90 1-ounce coins or something. You have to take a hit, in other words. So it's best to start small. And as you have the ability to move up, go ahead. But you don't want to do the reverse where, you have a 1 or 2 time decision. When do I sell my silver? I have 200 ounces. I got to make one choice and then another choice, or, that type of thing.
This is a related question again from Richard Ralph Rail, who asks, are minted bullion coins, silver in particular, less prone to government confiscation if a full-blown economic collapse occurs?
Yes, they are. I mean, if you were in a situation where the government would really have a hard time confiscating legal tender, and Silver Eagles, gold or silver, are legal tender. So it'd be like confiscating a U.S. or Federal Reserve note. It'd be pretty tough to say that those are illegal. We're going to confiscate them. However, I think the confiscation thing's overblown, but nonetheless, there's many that believe that it's understated. Time will tell. You got to remember, in the 1933 executive order to take in all the gold, I mean, a lot of people just sat on their gold and didn't say a damn word and buried it in a coffee can where they could watch it from their kitchen sink and just didn't say anything. I mean, and plus the trust of government is at such a low ebb right now. I think a lot of people would just ignore it. I don't know. I don't fear the confiscation thing very much.
There's a question on here. This is from Tech Soul, who asks, what are your thoughts on investing in large quantities of other metals that are more, quote, useful, like copper, steel, brass, etc.?
Well, I would take a little homage with him that there's nothing more useful than silver.
I thought that's what I was expecting to say, but keep
that's
up.
That's okay, but I think I understand what he means. But I don't know. I, was familiar with Swiss metals. I almost opened an account, turned out to have issues with what they said they had versus what they really had. Some people got burned on that, but they had a lot of exotics, alloy, beryllium and titanium and all these exotics. I think it's best to stick with what's best recognized. I mean, if you're going to buy copper, certainly a good industrial metal, well needed and that type of thing. But, you got $25,000 worth of copper, map out how much volume that takes versus $25,000 worth of silver. And then you could equate that versus $25,000 worth of gold. So, I'm free market. I mean, if you think you're going to make a lot more money by buying tungsten or iridium or beryllium or any of those exotics, be my guest. Those markets are extremely illiquid unless you're a metals dealer that's with the LME, the London Metals Exchange. You might be able to buy it reasonably easily, but you're not going to be able to sell it back without having to take a big discount.
This one's I know you've talked about integrity, about say what you're going to do what you're going to say, be true to your word, that sort of thing. It's not what we see quite often in the public arena. Without Excuse 2011 asks, the theory of protecting yourself with physical metals applies. when you have an enforced rule of law. Without a rule of law, the criminals do whatever they want, whenever they want. They have no fear of legal consequences. They manipulate all markets, extracting money on the upside and the downside. At the time of their choosing, they'll allow markets to set the true price, then they'll confiscate wealth via capital gains taxes or other means. In short, you and I are essentially in a no-win scenario. Can you confirm my conclusion that there is no fail-safe way out of this no-win situation? If you disagree with my conclusion, then what is a fail-safe way to win here?
Well, great question. Yeah, I will say that, most of my work is based on a presupposition. And that presupposition is that there's enough moral structure left of the society at large, or at least within your own community, where you would be able to use it. Now, that gets very specific, that it might be just my neighborhood here of 70 people, and we're all relatively trustworthy, and that's as far as it goes. Anything outside of that community doesn't work. And so so that's that. I mean, definitely there's a presupposition that there's some semblance of law, whether it's, the law as we understand it today, or it's a community derived by the elders type of situation. I think you're following my train of thought. I mean, a total breakdown, if it's every man for himself, then obviously what I've taught is pretty much meaningless, because you're in a situation where probably the last thing you're going to worry about is, what the, barter availability, what the barter value of, 5 quarters is, if on the other side you're just facing an angry mob and nothing else. So yeah, let's go there. The other part, he said, what was the last?
Well, I think he's talking about actually like the powers that be, confiscating wealth via capital gains. Basically, it's that feeling of you're darned if you do it, you're darned if you don't. Yeah. Those who make the rules are going to figure out an angle so that no matter how you try to protect your nest egg, you're gonna lose it. Is there any way that's the least risk that you can position yourself?
Yeah, thanks for restating it. I would say still what I've taught. I mean, the physical metals is probably the best. I mean, again, even in an outlaw situation, meaning that at law you're not allowed to use it, there's always a black market, which is really a free market. So as long as both parties keep their mouths shut and they're doing business, and that's nothing, that on a natural law basis is totally lawful. It's only on a man-contrived illegal basis. Remember, a just man disobeys unjust laws. I mean, I know that sounds radical, but, if we adhere to natural law, or what I prefer to say, God's will or God's laws, I mean, we won't have a lot to fear on the ultimate end, but you certainly might have to face some consequences here in the here and now. But, you have to make those decisions for yourself. But, yeah, going back and repeating myself, yeah, there's a presupposition that there isn't a total breakdown, Mad Max type of scenario. Now, there will be, in my studied opinion, some places that are like that. But I think those will clean up pretty quickly. And why would I say that? Because when you're in a lawlessness situation, it usually has pockets where they basically burn each other out pretty quickly. Mm. And once they're, burn out, then that's the end of it. So, I could be a bit sorry about that. I forgot to turn off the phone. So that's that. Let's go on to the next one.
Yeah. Well, since you brought up sort of that consideration of sort of eternal questions, Stephen Messenger asks, wouldn't it be a better investment to store my treasure in heaven instead of here on earth where rust will destroy it?
Of course. I mean, and that's a personal decision. I mean, I'm open market or free market on that as well. I mean, I'm not telling anybody how to believe. But I think there is something, one of my favorite, bumper stickers is, if you're living your life like there isn't a God, you better be right. I mean, a little humor, but also the truth. I mean, so I would say, yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, live to the best of your human ability and based on your own worldview. And I'm not telling anybody, again, what to think, do, or say. But if you are in that belief system or in that type of a worldview, then obviously you got to make the decision of what is best served for you. And let's say the beyond, by all of your actions.
Wisely put. This is a little bit of a memory teaser. Space Monkey asks, do you still own the first silver coin you ever bought?
Wow. I'd have to say, I would say coin, yes. Yes, I would say coin, yes. Bar, no. First 100-ounce bar I ever bought, I did sell eventually. But the first coin I bought, yes, I'd say I still have it.
It's interesting because when you and I were young, every coin we touched was a silver coin,
That's right.
except for nickels and pennies, and they were actually real nickel and real copper.
Yeah. Well, that's why it was a tough answer, because he said bought.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
The next one is this is I promise you I did not make this one up. This is from Linda Balin Mower, who said, aside from investing in bullion, do you have any faith in the new green, environmentally safe mining technology companies such as EnviroLeach, extracting from mine waste and e-waste? They were a finalist in the 2018 Disrupt Mining Accelerator Challenge. Bet you've never heard of that company before, have you, David?
Yeah, no one has followed that to the degree that I have, and I own shares, and I wouldn't own shares unless I believed in the company.
Yeah, if you want to find out more about that, I know David has written about it on his Morgan Report newsletter, and he's spoken about it on our interviews here as well. So, guys, go back and check out some of the David Morgan archives here on Reluctant Preppers. We even have a playlist for David Morgan, so you can binge on David Morgan. Your groupies never can get enough. So, Mimi asks, do you recommend precious metals for Canadians, and is Canada at risk just like the USA?
Yeah, the world at large is in the same debt-based monetary system, and everything's based on the reserve currency of the U.S. dollar. So we're basically all in the same boat. And of course, as I stated earlier, it depends where you're living, how you live. I mean, if you're living in an Amish community and things go hit the fan, it probably wouldn't affect your community nearly as much as if you're in a penthouse apartment in downtown Toronto. So there are going to be ebbs and flows. But no, prudent investing and understand the monetary system applies to everyone on the planet.
Frank Scarfoni asks, after the reset, will the price of silver be artificially suppressed because it is used extensively in industry?
Well, the whole Silver Users Association is basically that. I mean, that whole cartel, I'll call it, is based on keeping the price of silver at a reasonable price for those that use it in the industry. But after the reset, I don't know. I doubt it. I think part of the reset will be an upsurgence, a repricing of everything will be the reset. So that means most things that are on leverage, which means like houses, because they're based on mortgages, and the price of money will be reset probably lower across the board. I mean, there'll be some exceptions. The stock market will be more based on true earnings rather than, how many stock buybacks there are and bonuses paid out by, the board of directors to themselves and their friends. So I think it'll be a whole readjustment. I think it'll be a readjustment financially, so things are repriced across the board. I think the metals will be repriced higher, not lower, relative to other things, because it's always a value. It's not a number so much. It's not that silver's at $100 an ounce, although you can think of it in those terms. It's what does 1 ounce of silver buy relative to what it buys now? That's what you really want to look at.
This one at first, I think it's actually more deep than I thought it was, so we'll go ahead and go with it. This is Don Beckwith. Let's say I have extra cash to invest and I have already bought into PMs and cryptos. I'm not worried about paying down any debt. What or where should I go with the extra cash? Buy more of the same, or is there something else?
Well, I'm starting an energy letter. I think energy is the most important commodity out there. So you could look at energy. I mean, oil and gas is still viable, coal. And then, of course, the ones that we're really going to be looking at hard, which would be, the battery metals, like this cobalt investment that we have for our premium members. There's, lithium. There's vanadium. There's other, storage battery type of minerals that we've looked at in our reports. So that's one. I think energy is a big one. And then there's this, the woo-woo thing about free energy, which as a, degreed engineer, it's hard for me to say there's such a thing as truly free energy, but I'm open-minded enough to say there's certainly something about the 0 point field and all this stuff that I, understand at a cursory level, certainly not at a deep level. So I would say there, and then it's always up to you, use that cash for what you want or need or want to pass on. If you have the ability to, let's say, give someone in your family that education that they need to get that better job, or maybe start a foundation, or do, service to others or whatever. Again, I'm not trying to tell anyone how to live their life, but if you are blessed that much where you have basically what you need and beyond,
Mm-hmm.
and feel safe and secure financially, then expand your mind outside the box and look at, do I need more silver? I mean, do I need more silver? And the answer is probably not. So, where am I going to look? And that's where, another thing might be, from reluctant preppers, do you have, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months worth of food stored? Do you? If you don't, that would certainly be a place. But I'm presuming, the presumption on my part, that you probably already have that.
Always a question for preparedness-minded folks is, when is enough enough?
Yeah.
This one could potentially be as deep as you want to take it. PT asks, I have a question for David Morgan. Who is David Morgan?
Oh, interesting. Well, I think you pretty much see, what you see is what you get. I'm pretty much the same anywhere at any time. I might be dressed in a suit when I'm talking on stage.
I've seen you like that.
An investment conference or whatever, but anyone that knows me well knows me. And, I'm human. I have foibles. I make mistakes. I certainly never said I had a halo over my head. I do have a certain amount of favorite, quotes. I'll use a few. One is that chance favors the prepared mind. In other words, this whole system that I have riled against for years about a debt-based fiat monetary system, the chance favoring the prepared mind means that if you're prepared for it and have maybe 10% in, the precious metals, you have a better chance if things do fall apart. Whereas if you go overboard and, have 100% in the metals and you bought it at, $30 an ounce silver and, $1,500 an ounce gold, you're a pretty unhappy camper right now. So life preaches balance. I think that I've tried very much to teach people that, how much is enough? What you just said there, Dunnigan. What's the right amount? And of course, when silver goes sky high, then you didn't have enough. But when it's gone the opposite direction of what you wanted, you have too much. So this is this is a moving target. I wouldn't say too much more about myself. Look, I've turned 65. One thing I don't have any regrets really, but I would say that I do in my quieter moments think, what else could I have done differently that would help more people understand the financial conundrum that we find ourselves in? I have asked that question.
If you were to sum that up in just a few bullet points, that what the financial conundrum that we do find ourselves in, what are the key points you think people need to take away about that?
Well, one, that there's nothing more powerful than the truth. And the truth is that there's never been a fiat system that hasn't failed. And 3, that you're responsible for you. No one's going to, an adult is someone that knows the cavalry isn't coming to the rescue. So that means you have to take action on yourself based on what you know or believe to be true. I'd say to your innermost being, and take the appropriate action, even if it's a little painful to admit that things could fail. But at least you have some, let's say you have some silver and some food, and you may never need it. I'll say that that's a possibility. I doubt it. I think in my lifetime, and I'm, got a few years left, something significant is going to take place throughout the marketplace.
We recently spoke with Rob Kirby, and he declared that he says, I have never been as bearish as I am right now, short term. He thinks that we're set up for something catastrophic to happen between now and the midterm elections, even a significant setback that will really shake the average person's confidence. Do you have that much of a short-term bearish outlook, or do you take kind of more of a long-term view?
Well, probably long-term. It always upsets me when, I don't get it right every time, but, I'm only human. So I would say there's a lot to what Rob says. I really like Rob, and we always have a great time when we're together, and I do call him from time to time and vice versa. But there seems to be an acceleration on everything, and not only the political mainstream, but across the board. So one, it wouldn't surprise me if by the end of November we start to see the stock market fall off in a rather significant way. We've already seen interest rates pop up enough to basically go through the major downtrend line that we've had for basically 30 years in the long bond. So that's significant. And we are at a place where, based on just very important matters such as the debt markets and the stock market, they're showing signs of getting very, very tired. The metals, of course, haven't responded yet, but that doesn't mean they won't. So I would, the old adage, another one, you'd rather be 6 months too early than 6 months too late. I mean, things do happen. And most people that even are prepared, let's say, from an intellectual perspective, but not from a physical one, meaning they've thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. They just haven't quite gotten around to doing anything about it. Then those are the people that probably hurt the most because they're aware of it. They just haven't taken the proper action.
And just one last question before we let you go, and that's people are asking about sort of the relative sequence when dominoes start to fall in the case of a serious financial upset. If people are lose confidence in the banking system, or there's a credit lockup or something like lack of liquidity or something like that, surprisingly, and we've talked about this before with a couple of guests, is normally you would think that there'd be this flight to safety, this risk off play, and you'd immediately see a drop like in the equity markets and an immediate response up in the precious metals markets. However, what's more commonly seen is they both fall. And but people are asking, for example, if they are considering purchasing mining stocks and they're anticipating that there's going to be an equity sell-off, if that's their mindset, should they consider waiting until they see the sell-off, or will mining stocks somehow go the opposite direction of the mass market of equities in the case of loss of confidence in the fiat system, that sort of thing?
Well, the answer actually is not that difficult. I mean, basically everything has to be settled in currency. So whether you own a huge gold position or a mining stock position or whatever, whenever there's an over-leveraged position, meaning the stock market or the bond market or any of these markets these days, there'll be a run to cash. There'll be a run to dollar. So the dollar is what will move first, and everything will move against the dollar, meaning gold will go down, silver will go down, mining stocks will go down. That's probably a 95% accurate. I mean, is there a possibility that, gold would shoot up? And it's yes, the answer is could. But more than likely, based on very long historical evidence and short-term and nearby evidence, this is more important. You have to weight it more importantly because it just happened, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
That you're going to see, for the most part, deleveraging and all these things. That's the time if you can time it. But if you can't time it, we're at such a washed out level here, you might have to hold on for, I'm going to make up a number, a couple of weeks, couple of months maybe at the most, and those markets would start back up. So again, you'd rather be early than late. And I think depending on how things go, and no one knows the future, there could be, not would be, but could be a situation where the market locks up. And for the physical market, there aren't many offers. There's just a lot of people bidding higher and higher and higher in dollars or yen or Deutsch or euros or whatever, trying to get metal from the strong hands. And the strong hands are saying, I am too worried about what this financial situation is going to look like in a week or month or 2 months. I'm holding on because it's the only thing that seems to be of value to me right now. So I'm not suggesting that's the absolute scenario, but I do factor it into my thinking. And that's why, again, you really want to have it when no one else wants it, which is like right now. No one really cares about the metals now at all. I mean, I'm almost surprised I still get an interview a week or so because, and I have a lot to tell other than just precious metals, of course, but nonetheless, it is, kind of a prime interest of mine. And there's very little interest in the precious metals at this time.
So that leads into my really last question, and that is, how can people find out more of your work if they want to get plugged in?
Yeah, the best thing to do is just go to the main website, themorningreport.com, and just give us a first name and an email address. We'll verify it's you, and then we'll be on our mailing list. And talking about the stock that woman asked me about on the green scene, I just did an interview, so I call it the big reveal. I was telling our potential premium members that if they wanted in early on this before it's announced to the public at large to climb on board the premium service. And we had a few that did, and the stock actually has started to move. But this will be out probably tomorrow on one of the syndicated columns. And it just is an interview that I did has been edited, re-edited, and edited a third time. I just finished it a few minutes actually before this interview. But it gives a pretty good overview of how this whole technology came about. To me, it's a fascinating story, but it's, I'm involved in it. But it's actually a very interesting situation, and I think maybe we'll be able to address that on the next program that we do together.
And that's at morganreport.com.
Right. Just go to morganreport.com, get on the free email list. When the column comes out, I'll just use it in a weekly update that I do every weekend, and I'll send it out to everybody so they can read it for themselves.
Excellent. We've been talking with David Morgan, founder and host, editor of themorganreport.com. David, thank you as always for joining us here on Reluctant Preppers.
Doug, thanks for the questions.